Welcome to Al-Muqaddimah. My name is Syawish. So, two really cool things happened recently that I wanted to share with all of you. First, we just hit 250,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which is just awesome. Thank you so much for that. When I started Al-Muqaddimah in 2018, I didn't expect it to be this big, but it's amazing. Thank you to everyone who's here, everyone who joined at the beginning, and everyone who joined recently, and everyone who joined in between. A special thank you to my patrons and YouTube members who support Al-Muqaddimah financially and keep it possible for me to make videos about topics that I'm really passionate about. Thank you to them and everyone who watches, likes, and shares these videos. Second, we made something kind of cool. It's a poster called The Timeline of Islamic History. As the name suggests, it condenses the entire history of the Islamic world, all 1400 plus years, into a 2x3 chart. It features over 200 Islamic dynasties, emirates, sultanates, empires, and caliphates. We put a lot of love and effort into making this, so I really hope you guys like it. It's available for purchase in early March 2025, but if you want to pre-order, you can do so right now at Etsy, because I'm only printing 1,000 of them at the moment, but if they do well, I'll print more and even make more charts about Islamic history. So check it out. For now, let me show you the chart so that you can see what it looks like and give me any feedback you have. Maybe I made some spelling errors or left out a dynasty that should have been on the chart. I can make any changes before it goes to print. So let's get started. So this is what the chart looks like in its entirety. The chart begins with three entities. There's the Byzantine Empire, the Sassanid Empire, and of course Prophet Muhammad. The chart begins around 600 CE. There's some notes here for abbreviations that we had to use because there was not enough space. For example, almost nowhere were we able to write Islamic Republic. And then there's some notes here that are, I guess, you can read them later on. Sorry about the background noise. I'm not in my studio space. I'm in my computer space, and I've got a server running, so it causes some noise from time to time, but I'm sorry about that. So yeah, the chart begins with Prophet Muhammad, and then the Rashidun Caliphate, the four caliphs of the Rashidun Caliphate come in. At this point, the Sassanid Empire is destroyed and absorbed into the Rashidun Caliphate. The Rashidun Caliphate then becomes the Umayyad Caliphate. And then it turns into the Abbasid Caliphate. Here we have some important battles from the era. The Marjrahid battle, which of course established the Umayyads, the Battle of Karbala, and the Battle of Constantinople, the Siege of Constantinople, which the Muslims lost. And here we have some other early battles. These are battles from the Prophet's life, the Battle of Uhud, Badr, Trench, etc., and Yarmouk, of course, which was the decisive Rashidun victory against the Byzantines. And then it begins with the Battle of Nahrawan, which I believe was the last battle of the Rashidun era. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure, but it was one of the last, I guess. The last major battle, probably. Of course, then we come to the Rashidun Caliphate, and there's the Battle of the Zab, which is Abbasid victory against the Umayyads, and the Battle of Talis River. And we have some figures here. We have Al-Rashid, Harun al-Rashid, sorry, it's Rashid, not Rashid, Harun al-Rashid. We have Al-Khwarizmi. There were so many figures at this point in Islamic history that, there's no space, but there's like 10 figures, 15, 20 figures probably that should be here, but we had to just pick a couple that could represent like everything. So we chose Al-Rashid, who represents the Abbasid Caliphate. Then we have Al-Khwarizmi, who represents sort of the sciences. And then we have Jafar as-Sadiq, who represents the Shia jurisprudence, and Abu Hanifa, who was a student of as-Sadiq actually. He worked on Islamic jurisprudence, and he founded the most popular school of Islamic jurisprudence, the Hanafiya. So that's the four figures that we have. But actually in this time period, around 800 to 900, There were so many incredible figures that while researching this chart, I came across this incredible fact that at the same time you had Al-Khwarizmi, you had Al-Bukhari, Al-Muslim, Imam Muslim. You also had Abbas ibn Farnas, who was the first man to take flight. So there was like this incredibly, incredibly rich era that unfortunately the chart is too big, and so the chart couldn't contain everything. But anyhow, let's continue. The Umayyad Caliphate turns into the Abbasid Caliphate. The Abbasids take over. But before the Abbasids take over, the Imamate of Oman actually breaks away. And the Imamate of Oman goes all the way to, what is that? Something like late 1700s. It continues in the mountains of Oman before it's destroyed by the Sultanate of Oman, which then, at the time, it would control Sultanate of Oman and Zanzibar. Zanzibar is somewhere up here, and then Zanzibar breaks away. But the first major successor state is, of course, the Emirate of Cordoba, which is founded by a former Umayyad prince, which later becomes the Caliphate of Cordoba, and then it breaks away and breaks into many parts called the Taifas, and then the Taifas continue, and then they're taken over by the Almoravids, and the Almoravids are taken over by the Almohad, and the Almohad continue, but from them, the Emirate of Granada breaks away. So that's what this is. Let me explain the colors a little bit. So because of the scope of the chart, we were not able to fit all all dynasties that were physically nearby on this chart. So some of them are up all over the place, which is why we have them colored. This orangish color represents the empires in Malaysia, Indonesia, and nearby areas. And then this light pink is Central Asia. And the little bit of a darker pink is India, because a lot of Indian empires were like very much Turco-Mongol, so I chose that color. And here we of course have one of my favorite historical figures, Iqbal, the national poet of Pakistan. He was an incredible philosopher. And then this sort of a golden-ish color is for Iran, because Iran is the Golden Empire. And then we have the green for empires that were like smack dab in the middle of the Islamic world. So Syria, Palestine, Libya, not Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, and Arabia. And this kind of a light, I don't know what to call this color, beige, I guess, color represents non-Islamic empires. So you have the Sassanids, the Byzantines, then you have the Mongol Empire here, and then here you have the Kingdom of Jerusalem. So that's what that is. Little darker green is used for like a couple of them because it represents Al-Andalus. And then we have purple, of course, is a color that was deeply associated with the Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire. And so the Ottoman Empire and the Seljuks of Rome and these empires, these guys, they largely ruled in areas that were previously Byzantine territory. So they have a purple color. You can see the Danishmendids and then Sultanate of Rome, and then you have the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire takes up like half of the chart. It's incredible. Sometimes you forget how long-lasting that empire was. It becomes the Republic of Turkey. And then Azerbaijan, I have put into the Iranian category. I don't know what Azeris will think of that, but I don't know, I decided that. Then we have this red color that represents North African empires. And then this teal color, I believe. This color represents East Africa, and this represents West Africa. So in terms of West Africa, we have the Mali Empire, the Songhay Empire, we have the Sokoto Caliphate, the Darfur Sultanate, then the Fun Sultanate. And here we have some countries, a lot of which I didn't know were like majority Muslim. I never knew that the Republic of Chad was like a majority Muslim country. And then we have Somalia, Djibouti, and the colonial period here. We wanted to initially have like actual entities here that represented colonial era, but the chart became too hectic to read, I guess. It became too crowded, so we decided not to do that. But some of them are shown here. For example, the Alawite dynasty eventually comes under the French protectorate. We have British protectorate in Egypt. We have these dots, they represent colonial independence from colonial empires. So the blue represents French, red British, Dutch, and Italians, and so that's what these colors represent. Egypt was a British protectorate until it gained its independence, and there was like a whole drama there. We have like other Islamic Arabian empires, not empires, sorry, states, Kuwait and Qatar, and the UAE. UAE also became free from the British, so there's that. Then we have the Saudi states, and Yemen. Yemen was one of the more complicated regions to turn into a chart because the Yemen's like terrain, it was like all over the place. There was almost always a power in northern Yemen and a power in southern Yemen, so there was always like it was a bit difficult to fit that on here, so that's where I had to make like a lot of sacrifice that I'm not a big fan of. And then of course we have Iran. Iran begins with these dynasties that were originally not Muslim. They, like you can see that the Babandids, they began with the Rashidun. We wanted to include some dynasties that were like very obscure, I guess, very minor dynasties that nevertheless had something special. But like for example, these dynasties, they lasted all the way almost till the Safavid era and the Mongol era. So they began before Islam, but then they converted to Islam around the 9th century, I believe. And then they continued. So we have a couple of these dynasties. The Shirvan Shahs is a very fascinating dynasty. Then we have the Buyid Empire, the Safarid Empire. The Samanids and the Safavids were the first, not the first, but the earliest successor states of the Abbasids. So they break away from the Abbasids. We also have here, we have Rustamid and Aghlabids, who were ruling over Tunisia, Algeria, that part. The Aghlabids would actually expand into Islamic Sicily as well. And so let's take a look here. Here in the Indian region, we have the Habari Emirate and the Emirate of Multan. These were two really, really fascinating emirates that existed before the official invasion by the Ghaznavids. There was also like a lot of Ismaili Shias in Multan, which was part of the reason that the Ghaznavid attacked. And then we have the Karakhanid Khanate. The Karakhanids are also existed before they converted to Islam, and then at some point they converted to Islam, and then they continued with that. Here we have the Mongols, the Mongols, and then we have the Ilkhanate breaking away from them, the Chagatai Khanate. We also have the Golden Horde here. The only one missing of the 4 successor states of the Mongols is, of course, the Yuan dynasty, because they never became Muslim. Despite that, there were a lot of Muslims there as well. So we have the Qasim Khanate, the Crimean Khanate, and the Kazan Khanate. I've talked a little bit about the Crimean Khanate in my video about the Tatars, so you can check that out. Here we have the Malacca Sultanate, which was overtaken or destroyed actually by the Portuguese. So there's a very fascinating fact that is almost unbelievable, at least to me, whenever I think about it. The Malacca Sultanate was destroyed before the Mughals came to India. So at the time, the Portuguese were also in India. So the Portuguese were in India 30 years before the Mughals were, which is just something that's, I don't know, at least to my Pakistani ears, it's always a little bit of a weird fact. And then we have all these sultanates appearing, that some of them came out of other sultanates, and then the Sultanate of, I pronounced it Mataram, but I was recently told that it's Mataram. I don't know if anybody knows the right pronunciation, please leave a comment. And then we have the Yogyakarta Sultanate that turns into, that becomes a part of Indonesia. There is a lot more that I wanted to include here, so if you have any feedback, do let me know. I really wanted to capture how much influence colonial empires had in the region. Like colonial empires started here and then they go all the way till here. So I wanted to really show that. But in the process of showing that, I also I didn't want to make it like in chart entirely about colonial empires, so we decided against that, and so just decided to show the sultanates themselves. Oh, there we go. Here's a mistake that you know, no need to point out. I guess I found it. This is the Durrani Empire, the founders of Afghanistan, and it turns into Afghanistan, the Emirate of Afghanistan, and so this arrow is wrong. I guess I'll fix that. The Russian Empire is the only colonial empire that's actually on this chart, and the reason that the Russian Empire is on this chart is because they controlled Central Asia, but also like a large part of some of the eastern territories of Russia had a lot of Muslims. For example, the former regions of the Khanate of Kazan, Crimea, etc. And so they had a Muslim population in a way that I don't think can be said of the British or the Portuguese. Like they all had colonies overseas, right? But the Russians, Muslims were like part of their empire, like very central part of their empire. So that's the reason we've decided to put them here. But if somebody thinks that that's, again, feedback, whatever you want to do. The Mongol Empire turns into British Raj, and then we have the 3 states coming from that. We have a bunch of other states like Ahmednagar, Bidar Sultanate, etc., etc., etc. Here we have some dynasties that were like very minor dynasties in Syria, because Syria always had these bunch of dynasties that were always doing something. This is of course the Zengid dynasty, the one of Imaduddin Zengi and Nuruddin Zengi. They were overtaken. Much of their area was overtaken by Ayyubids, Salahuddin Ayyubi, but they did continue to survive. There was also the Burid Emirate, which ruled Damascus, I believe, and there are like all these other minor dynasties that existed in Syria. Here we have the Karmatians. Fun fact, there's a video coming out about them. They were an offshoot of the Ismailis. They came out of their preaching efforts, but they broke away from the Fatimids. So the Fatimids actually established their state later on. The Karmatians came before. And they ruled in the region of Al-Bahrain, which is, I believe, not the same as the country of Bahrain. So that's a different topic. But they continued doing that, and then in 930, somewhere around, I guess, here-ish, they sacked the holy city of Mecca, which like totally threw them out of the larger Islamic world. Like its larger Islamic canon started seeing them as rebels, as outlaws, and not like an actual Muslim empire or state. What else? There's of course the Safavids, and then the Afsharids take over, and then that becomes Qajar, Iran, Pahlavi Iran, and the Islamic Republic of Iran. We have the Ottomans here. The Ottomans take over a bunch of these states, and then there's the classical age of the Ottomans, which is like their peak. Their actual peak comes later on, but this is like the classical age. They did a lot of amazing stuff all the way up till like 1683. There was like a lot going on at the time. And then we have the Ottomans dying out and becoming the Republic of Turkey. In terms of East Africa, we have some of these older sultanates, Sultanate of Mogadishu, Ifat, and Adil Sultanate, and the Sultanate of Zanzibar, and the Sultanate of Harar. So a bunch of these sultanates are here. And then we have a couple of countries, Somalia, Djibouti, and Mauritania. We also have Albania, Kosovo, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else there to see, to be honest. We have like Central Asian dynasties. So we have the Emirate of Bukhara, the Khanate of Bukhara, and all these different... We have the Volga, Bulgaria. Actually, I forgot about that. Volga, Bulgaria were these people lived on the Volga River who became Muslims, and then they wrote to the Caliph in Baghdad asking him to send someone to teach them about the ins and outs of Islam, and so they sent a guy called, how am I blanking out on his name? Oh, Ibn Fadlan, sorry. I blank out on names these days. They sent Ibn Fadlan, and Ibn Fadlan met Vikings there and wrote about Vikings who he met there. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. But yeah, there's a lot of these cool little empires everywhere that are really fascinating. So yeah, definitely if you notice something, if you see something that you think needs to be fixed, or some dynasties that need to be added, definitely let me know, and I will think about adding them. I'll decide if they should be added. But yeah, thank you very much. And like I said, the pre-orders are open now. If you want to wait until they're printed, that's going to be in 2 weeks. So if you want to do that, then that's fine. If you want to pre-order, then that's fine as well. And I really hope that you guys like this. Thank you for watching.